Hey folks, Internet Dude here. Hey, I'm back here with another F150 video. This time I'm just doing some preventative maintenance on my truck. I'm doing a cooling system flush, and I realized the thermostat is pretty easy to change, and I have no idea if it's been done before, so I'm going to go ahead and change that and show you what it entails. So step one is just make sure the vehicle is cool. This truck's a 5.4 liter. This should apply to 4.6 liter vehicles as well. Probably apply to other vehicles other than the F150 that have those Ford engines. So basically what you want to do, make sure the engine's cool. Slowly remove the radiator cap. So on the F150, if we look down, this is the passenger side of the truck. Way down there at the bottom, there's a little, looks like a yellowish colored screw made out of plastic. That's the drain for the radiator. So what you'll want to do is go down there and unscrew that. You'll need a 19 millimeter wrench. That's what I used anyway. And that will let you just go down there, pull it out. You want to drain out about a gallon of coolant. So I drained the radiator completely. You don't need to do that, like I said. And I got just about 2 gallons worth of fluid out of there. Then what I did is I stuck the hose in the coolant degas bottle and just sprayed some tap water through like a hose. And this is what came out from that. There's actually, I think, a little bit of, yeah, there you can see it. A little bit of gunk settled in the bottom. So it did stir up some sediment and knock that out. And then I put in this Ford Premium Cooling System Flush VC1, and I ran that through, and then it's actually blue in color, so it darkened up what was left, and then this is what I drained out after installing that. But you don't have to do a flush. I would recommend you do one if you're replacing the thermostat, but you don't have to do that. So I decided to go with brand new Ford Motorcraft parts. This is the correct thermostat for the 5.4. It's a RT1234 part number, and you'll need an O-ring to go with it. This one's an RG571. You'll want to double check your application. This is a 2003 F150 with a 5.4 liter gas engine, and you could go aftermarket if you want. I thought this stuff is not very expensive, and you know you get good quality with that. And then make sure you have the right coolant for your vehicle. In my case, my truck calls for the gold antifreeze coolant from Ford. This stuff's a little bit pricey to buy the actual Motorcraft stuff, but I've actually got 3 jugs here in case I need it. So, oh, and then I've got distilled water here too. It's cheaper to buy the concentrated version and a jug of distilled water and mix it yourself versus buying the pre-mixed stuff. All right, so we'll come back under the engine. We got the coolant drained. In my case, I have this little beauty cover here. There's 3 10 millimeter fasteners, which I've removed, and then that comes off. And then I have this bracket down here. These are 8 millimeter fasteners. And in my case, I have this bracket that I need to remove. You may or may not have this bracket that you need to remove. And then this is the upper housing for the upper radiator hose, and the thermostat's underneath that. So there's 2 10 millimeter bolts on there, and this should kind of pop off. You don't need to worry about disconnecting that upper radiator hose. I don't think this will be in the way yet. Some guys take this off. We'll find out if I actually need to, but I'll take those bolts off and we'll come back. All right, so I took off those 2 bolts. The one closer to the passenger side is in good shape. The one more on the driver's side is looking a little worse. Shouldn't be a problem. I'll clean that up. So the next thing was then I was trying to remove that actual housing, and it wasn't coming off real easy. So I grabbed a rubber mallet and I just tapped at it, and that caused it to break loose. So now we can lift this up. Bear with me. Okay. So there we can see the thermostat and the O-ring. When you're here, just check this surface to make sure it doesn't need any cleanup or anything. So next up, I'll just grab something and pry the old thermostat out. So with the thermostat out, just take a look at the mounting surface there. It all looks good. I'm not worried about anything. In the end, we didn't actually have to take off this air intake tube, which proved to be handy. That'd just be extra work we didn't need. All right, so the important next step is to take your new thermostat and the gasket and just compare with the old one, make sure they look the same. They're extremely similar. I noticed the spring on the bottom here is just a little bit different. The spring on the top maybe has different number of coils on it as well, but this is a brand new Ford Motorcraft part. And if we actually look at it, it has Motorcraft stamped on it and 192 degrees Fahrenheit. Can you see that? 192F. And when we look at the old one that I just took out, it also has Motorcraft and 192 stamped on it. So there's a chance that's the original thermostat. I really can't tell. I'm not even going to bother to test it. But basically you put it back together, you drop this in, and then you put the O-ring on there on top. Make sure that's seated down all the way. Kind of got to push it down a little bit. And make sure the pointier part here is on the top. I'll just try and get that O-ring, and the O-ring just seats down into kind of the bottom up against there. So should be something like that, and then we'll put that fitting back on. And basically the taper on the thermostat housing here pushes up against the O-ring seal, and that's what provides the sealing. If you're really paying attention, you might notice that this one wire here that's now to the left used to actually route around there. It almost seems more natural for it to run in the other direction, so I'm going to leave it there. We'll grab the bolts. I put them on my wire wheel, just kind of briefly cleaned them up just a little bit. Put the shinier, better one on the left, and this one more on the driver's side. Tighten those down. The shop manual says 18 foot-pounds is the spec. All right, so everything's tightened up to spec. We got that bracket back on and that cover back on. Next step would be just to make sure your radiator drain is closed off. Top up the coolant and bleed out the air. Typically you can just leave the cap off and let the vehicle get up to temperature, and will naturally burp the air into the tank. I have this tool, it's called an airlift, and what it does is I use an air compressor and I hook it up this into the overflow bottle, degas bottle I should say, and it'll let me pull a vacuum on the system, check for leaks, and then refill it. So I have a video on this. I'm not going to go into it in this video, but that's an option too. So I hope this video has helped you. If it did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe, because I do have more F150 videos, and I'll probably be coming out with more again in the future. But yeah, definitely check out. I do have a video that's fairly popular on replacing that battery cable and the starter. I've got a steering wheel replacement video and a few others. So check them out. Thanks for watching.